Well everyone, the IndyBuilds A350 is out, arguably the most anticipated release of this year. It certainly looks the part. In today's airliner orientated video, I'll be sharing my initial thoughts on the Airbus A350, highlighting some incredible new features of the freeware Airbus A380, and of course, sharing the latest flight sim updates and news. So if you like the sound of that, stay tuned, and if you haven't done already, do be sure to subscribe, as only 18% of you are. Once you've done that, thank you, and let's get right into it. Looking ahead with the PMDG team, for those that are waiting for the PMDG lineup to be officially ported over to Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, it's looking like we are getting closer to seeing that. The PMDG team are confident that with all the fixes and tweaks we've begun to see with the upcoming Sim Update 1, it won't be long before we see the DC-6 and their current fleet of 777s on the new Sim. Now the best part of this is that there'll be no update fee for the 777s and the DC-6 if you own the 2020 version, which is of course incredibly welcome news for all simmers, and of course we do hope it's also backported, so if you buy it on 2024 you can use it on 2020, although they haven't explicitly confirmed this yet. Now with the release of these products on 2024 you can also expect some significant improvements, including enhanced sound packs, which is of course great news, the upcoming 777-200ER, which is the shorter variant of the two, continues in its development. It's looking good, supposedly anyway, and will be released concurrently both on 2020 and 2024. They have a date set in their diary, but they're not sharing it with us just yet. Now they've been slightly more silent regarding the 737 for Microsoft Flight Sim 2024, as they continue to evaluate its place on the new Sim, whatever that means, but they have confirmed that they are working on a brand new cabin and still working away on the 737 MAX in the background. On your screen now are some very early renders of the gear assembly of the Boeing 747 Classic. Now PMDG are working on two variants of the 747 for the time being. This is the 747-100 Classic and the 747-400, the latter of which I am incredibly excited for. Now all of these 747s will be coming to Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 as a minimum. They do not know yet if they will be releasing their 747s on 2020, but if I was a gambling man, I would place my bets on eventually yes, but I wouldn't be willing to put my entire life savings on it. Modelling and code development are in varying stages of development for both of these airframes, and PMDG do plan on an extensive repertoire of the 747, from the 747 SP all the way up to the very modern, very shiny 747-8. So some very exciting news from the PMDG team. It all sounds incredibly promising. If you want to get hands-on with PMDG aircraft alongside thousands of flight simmers and aviation enthusiasts, then it would be an honour for you to join me at this year's FSWeekend, Europe's biggest flight sim convention, held at Lelystad Aviodrome, which is about 45 minutes outside of Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Now this is not sponsored at all. I went last year and I had an absolute blast. It looks like this year is going to be even better, and as such I'm bringing my good friend Dan, who is an excellent cameraman, so I look forward to bringing you all the news, previews and showcases from the expo floor. It is a bit of a trek for many of you. Luckily it's only a sort of 45-50 minute flight for me, but if you can make it, you won't regret it, and it would be great to meet so many of you. A call to action: if you've seen any of the companies on your screen and you'd like me to pose a question to them, from Navigraph to Orbex to Say Intentions to the event organisers of FSWeekend themselves, let me know down in the comments, because I'll be there conducting interviews across the 2-day event. It will be held on the 15th and the 16th of March, as I said, in Lelystad. Entry is included in museum admission, and to be honest with you, the museum is epic in itself. I cannot wait to go, and honestly cannot think of anything better to do in Amsterdam. Do have a look at the FSWeekend website, as it promises to be another great event, and if you can't make it, keep an eye out on my channel, as I will be bringing you plenty of content direct from the Netherlands. Now, while the flight sim world has been busy with the Build's A350, I think something has slipped under our radar when it comes to the freeware fly-by-wire A380. This superb long hauler for Microsoft Flight Simulator on PC. We all know it's fantastic, but the team are still working on it. In the development build of the A380, there are plenty of new features that deserve the spotlight. Updates to the onboard airport navigation system, which is enabled when you connect this plane up to Navigraph, now allow you to customise all sorts of things within your navigation display. The ability to add crosses and flags, to be honest with you, was completely alien to me, but once you get to use it, it's really helpful. Whether it be a no-tammed closed taxiway or an aiming point, it's a level of customisation that exists in the real world, so why not do it in the sim? It's a new feature that has been added. More importantly, the onboard information terminal on the port side of the aircraft, when you're sat in the captain's seat, has been enabled. I do believe it also works on the first officer's side, but I haven't tried it. This allows you to access the load sheet, aeronautical charts from the like of Navigraph, and eventually performance calculators. It's basically a really good electronic flight bag that has been built into the plane from the very start. There's a very similar feature on the working title 787 and an almost identical feature, or OIT I should say, on the Build's A350, as I'll be discussing in a moment. But a reminder that the fly-by-wire A380 is freeware. Now, the OIT is not fully functional just yet. It does work and do a pretty good job, but it's not fully kitted out at the moment. But my goodness, does it make airliner ops so much smoother than having to use the iPad. There's implementation of the flight warning system in a more realistic manner, which is only really useful if you simulate failures, but it's a new feature that's there if you want to use it. All of these features can be accessed via the development version of the A380. I think it's almost unbelievable that this is a real aircraft, but if there was one team that could do it, it would be fly-by-wire, and I look forward to catching up with them at FSWeekend. And also a top tip, if you want to save some FPS and aren't too bothered about using the onboard airport navigation system, especially if you don't have Navigraph, pull the circuit breaker on the top right side of the overhead panel, as you can see here, and you'll save a few FPS and reduce the load on your GPU. Now, of course, I couldn't miss the release of the Build's A350. It's now available for both Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 and 2024. It's an expensive one, coming in at £75 UK here, including local tax. And I have to be brutally honest, when I tried this out for the first time, and I might add, I bought this with my own money, I didn't get it sent to me, I was incredibly disappointed. Much like Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 on release, it was an absolute train wreck for me. Sounds were crazy, way too loud, especially when putting the gear down. Performance was terrible, and there was texture bugs all over the place. Of course, the Builds team noticed this, and the first update released addressed the most pressing issues. Still not good enough for what is a very expensive item, but it is certainly a lot better now. For that £75, you get both the 900 and 1000 variant of the A350, including a fantastic cockpit and meticulously well detailed cabin, and with the initial bugs addressed, it is a very enjoyable experience. Some on the internet seem to be somewhat disappointed by the system fidelity. I think it's good enough, although I might add, funnily enough, I do not have my A350 type rating. Modelling and texturing wise, it looks superb on both simulators, and it flies quite nicely. It definitely provides something a little bit different. Last night over Hong Kong, it was seamless on 2024. Would I recommend it? It's a big question. Well, it's a lot of money, so I think it falls down to personal preference, whether or not you want to fly this aircraft type I should say. To compare it to the market leader of Airbus simulation, arguably the Phoenix A320, it probably isn't up to that level of system depth just yet, although it does include some highly advanced features such as a simulation of a bird strike. But for your humble flight simmer like me, it certainly does the job, and it's good fun to fly something that feels incredibly modern. Again, it is very expensive. Would I have purchased it if I wasn't a content creator? Well, yes, but in its current state, I would struggle to swallow the fact it's £75. Especially when you consider that the fly-by-wire A380 is lurking in the corner back there for free. What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Now, it's been a while since I announced a project where most of the communication has been on Discord, because over my years of making videos on flight sim projects, those on Discord, well, many of them failed to materialise. But if you're on the market for a 737 Classic, you may want to keep a keen eye out on these guys. CSS are working on the entire 737 Classic lineup, from the 300 up to the 500, including passenger and cargo versions. Planned for the moment for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, they seem incredibly confident in their product. Their pricing model, I have to say, is unconventional. It's $120 for the entire family of the 737 Classics, although you will only be getting the 500 on release. But you can also pay as you go in a sort of subscription model. $5 a month to access the 737 Classic, $50 a year to access it for a year. Now, I should say, as I said there, the 737-500 will be the first one on the way. The others will get released out in time. Now, I know that pricing model is going to cause a bit of a stir. I don't really like subscriptions, but it does give you a good opportunity to try the product out for a handful for basically pocket money. And if you don't like it, you don't have to pay again. If you do like it, you can upgrade. So I think it's quite smart from that way. It's probably more of a sign of the world around us today, but I still don't really know how I feel about it. One thing for sure, from the screenshots they've been showing us, it looks great. It's in its final stages of development. It's been developed to a good standard of detail and should be with us within 2025. There'll be no GPS, but there will be Navigraph integration and an EFB. And of course, GPS in these aircraft did not exist when these planes rolled off the production line in the real world, so that is realistic. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing this aircraft, and for $5 it will be very nice to try it out when it is released, and who knows, make the jump if it's very good. You can join their Discord down below. I think it's one to look out for. On that note, it's been a slightly longer video than usual, but a bit more in depth, so I hope you've enjoyed. Do let me know if I'll be seeing you at FSWeekend in Lelystad this year. I think it's something to really look forward to. But on that note, it has been a pleasure as always. I'll see you very soon, and bye bye.